Yeah, it always starts with me trying to pronounce the name right? Jorge Garrido Lopez? Okay. Good start. University of Granada is our next speaker. This is very much a Southern European and Iberian session, I think, which I find quite fascinating because then again, normally hearing mostly about Northern European textiles, I welcome the comparison. The papers about transformations and change in textile production, the Nasrid Kingdom of Granada and the Christian conquest of the 14th to 16th century saw a similar time frame. From what I saw online, quite a few of your publications are in Spanish, so then again, I could decipher from it that it is your research is a lot about textiles and about crafts and craft development. Women's studies too, partly, I think, yeah. So a speaker that fits quite well, and then again, I'm very much looking forward to hear about your research, although I can't, unfortunately, read a lot of it. Yeah, the floor is yours. Looking forward.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the organization for having me and bring me the opportunity to listen your interesting works. So thank you, obrigado. Sorry. Before I begin, I think it is important to contextualize this contribution. The silk is the fiber that we know best in the history of Al-Andalus. And it is for this reason that my main research focuses on all of the other fibers and leather in the Nasrid Kingdom. But during my investigation, I have realized that not treating the silk at all completely is a mistake, just as focusing only on it, as has been done so far. The information we get from the silk and its situation help us to understand what happened in other fibers and we don't have so many information of that. In this sense, what I'm presenting here today is only a general approach to the problem, what we know at this moment about this topic, and which we will develop later in further works. So, well, how did an event as important as the end of the Nasrid Kingdom of Granada and its replacement by the Christian Kingdom of Granada affect the textile production, and specifically in this case, the silk production? This is the question that my lecture today reflects on, but let's start at the beginning. The Nasrid Kingdom of Granada is the political formation resulting from the Pact of Jaén between Ferdinand III of Castile and Muhammad ibn Nasr in 1246, where the Muslim territory is reduced to the southeast of the Iberian Peninsula. The war of Castile and between Castile and the Nasrid Kingdom, called the War of Granada, which began in 1482 and will end in 1492 with the conquest of the city, the Granada, and the complete disappearance of the last Muslim territory of the peninsula. This is the panorama. As I have commented, the War of Granada lasted 10 years, which step by step Castilla was snatching territories from the Nasrid Kingdom. Along with a large diversity of the post-conquest situations, contingent of new settlers, Christian settlers, will begin to arrive to benefit from the distribution of land and favorable conditions for settlement. The coexistence, not equal and peaceful, of the Muslim inhabitant and the new Christian settled will produce a new reality, a coexistence and a series of transformations. This is what interests us related to the silk production, the new reality of a society in transition. One of the main transformations resulting from this process and crucial for the silk production is the coexistence and transition between two models of agricultural production. In the Muslim territories and in general for all Al-Andalus, the implementation of an irrigated agrarian economy generated a highly productive polyculture agriculture. The arrival of the new Christian settle breaks this balance, introducing a new feudal Castilian system with a series of its own characteristics. Among them, we find a more extensive agriculture with a clear speculative purpose, which will lead to establishment speculative monoculture in irrigated areas like sugar canes and dry areas like the famous moral trees. This change in the organization of the agricultural production is not unique, but rather there is a concentration of land, productive lands, in this case to cultivate the moral trees and therefore the food for the silkworm, the Bombus mori. This is out to us with the data of the distribution of land of some alquerías, like a small concentration of like villages, such as Torros or Casa Arbonela in Málaga. Carrying out a meticulous analysis of the documentation, in this case done by Professor Adela Fábregas from the University of Granada, we can reconstruct the organization of in the Nasrid period, the organization of the land in the Nasrid period. We can observe the ascent of the large concentration, although if we notice some inequalities, they are not dramatic. The possession is fragmented indeed, but the moral trees is always present in some quantity. In the case of Torros, for example, most of the owners have less than 15 moral trees, and the ownership of some of these trees is shared between 2 or more persons. On the other hand, this other data from the moment after the Christian conquest reveal to us how the panorama began to change. Through documentation preserved in the historical archive of the Alhambra in Granada, we know that a resident of the Alhambra itself will have 3,000 moral trees, another between 4,000 and 5,000 of these trees. We don't know the names, but the data is for 1522. In the same way, the receiver of the Chancellery of Granada will have concentrated in his hand 15,000 moral trees in the plain of Granada in the years immediately after the conquest. Well, as I said, together with a concentration of land, an intensification and increase in production yields is sought. Along this line, we have again the Castilian oligarchy planting mulberry trees on their lands, of course. Not moral trees, not the older moral trees. The difference between these mulberry trees, Morus alba, and the older moral trees, Morus nigra, is that their leaves, the mulberry leaves, are smaller and softer. But at the time it was strongly believed that they fed silkworm better and increased the silk production. Another of the great transformations in silk production has to do with the entry of the mercantile capital into the production process. The analysis of the merchant accounting books, such as those of one of the members of the famous Spinola family of merchants, specifically in this case Francesco Spinola Chipietri, reveal to us how the Nasrid period, in the Nasrid period, this great Italian merchant, interested of course in the Granada silk trade, did not have direct contact with the silk producer, not with the artisan. They used intermediaries for those tasks. After 1492, the conquest, this will change. Fundamentally, through the analysis of the notarial documentation of the different cities of the Kingdom of Granada, we can see how these merchants, mostly Italian, but also from Toledo, Burgos, and other cities in the north of Spain, list the fundamental element of the work of the artisan, like looms, spinning wheels, and other tools. But not only this. These merchants are also in charge of supplying these artisans with the raw material necessary to carry out their production. Even in some cases, are these merchants who have significant economic capacity, of course, are the ones who gather around them a good number of artisans in charge of different phases of the production process. In this case, the silk production process. One of the clearest examples is Juan de Baeza, but also have another example like Francisco Maldonado Aladri of the city of Granada. I don't have really enough time to explain these cases in detail, but some of the information is on the screen. The new regulations, we are aware of the intention of the Castilian Crown to initially maintain the organization and control of the silk production as in the Nasrid period. There was a very intense concern to develop a clear regulations in order to standardize production and intensify the income from tax. In this way, already in 1485, the territory of Malaga, the way in which the collecting agent had to seal the silk and collect taxes on the spinning wheels was established. In 1497, a first regulation was established about the way of spinning, their quality, and the control of the production. In the summer of that same years, the right to collect taxes on silk production throughout the Kingdom of Granada were transferred to a well-known merchants like Alonso de Alanis. The ordinances of Granada of 1501, which are the first of the Thai Kingdom, sought to us a grand concern for maintaining a high quality in the work with silk, especially, again, in the spin, one of the central part of the work. They also include a very interesting fact such as the mention of Genoese run. Our obligation is established in the weaving of the same textile, like velvets, damask, abodol, to respect the technical aspect imported from Genoa, especially this Genoese run that established the width of the wreath of the loom and its adjustment. In 1513, Lorenzo Galíndez de Carvajal was appointed as a silk inspector from the Kingdom of Granada to inspect the wheels where the silk was spun and to collect tax for each one of them. He also had to ensure that the silk that was spun had the required quality. Both Malaga and Almería established heavy and corporal punishment in 1524 for spinners who work without following the rules. Another measure established in 1546 prohibiting practicing as a spinner without a license from the local authorities and without being in a registry. In addition to having a series of exam, theoretical and practical tests to be a spinner. They are just an example, but they will continue to happen through the 16th century in that same way. So, as a conclusion and synthesis, we have been able to see how the Castilian conquest of the Kingdom of Granada transformed some of the key aspects of the silk production in the region. In a very general way, these changes were aimed to concentration and intensifying the production through the accumulation of the previous fragmented land, monocultures, and planting new mulberry trees, so an intensification at some point. Introduction of the mercantile capital in the production process, through the leasing facilities and tools, supplying raw materials, and more directly, hiring artisans. Through the last, control of production through the taxation and in more purely technical way, seeking a standardization that will satisfy the foreign merchants. If we carry out a more in-depth analysis of this transformation, we see that most of them, if not all, are related directly with the export of this material to the market. European, mostly Italian, and the satisfaction of this demand is one of the keys, the main keys. It is this demand, the commercial part of the process, which stimulates the change and redesign in some aspect the productive process. Thus, when the demand changes radically, then the productive part is no longer capable of adapting this change, the ruin of the Granada silk takes place. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Jorge, for your presentation. I would like to ask you about the ordinances, because when I had the chance to study Toledo's ordinances, well, I realized that there was also a traditional silk production. But they wanted new ordinances from Genoa. They wanted to produce silks like in Genoa, because that was the product that it was good sold. But the thing is, my question is, why they? Maybe it sounds obvious or ridiculous, but why they wanted to foster a local production in Granada when we already know that the main exporter of raw silk were people from Toledo who had a great market to feed. They already fed the market of Valencia, Murcia, Toledo, even Cordoba.
Yeah.
Why to make their own manufacturing in the city? And the second, once they promoted, fostered, is it possible to know where they took, where the ordinances come? If they look not only in Genoa, but in a specific city like Valencia or Toledo, or if they take some aspects of the ordinances from Toledo and some others from Valencia, because if I remember well, at the middle of the 16th century, the three cities, which were the main silk producers, Toledo, Valencia and Granada, wanted to make an appointment about how to rule about the production in order to not look for apprentices from the other cities, if I remember well.
Regarding to the last question, I think, I'm not sure about that, but I think that the ordinances of Granada, the first ordinances of the 1501, take some aspect from the Valencian ordinances. But in general, it's very new ordinances, not like Toledo, Burgos, that copy each other. So I think in this case, they import so much aspect from Genoa in order to direct the production to that market. So I think this is the key, the exportation of the silk, most the spin silk to the Italian market. So I think it's very new in that case. And if you can repeat the first question, because I don't think it's a little bit confusing for me.
It was the ridiculous one, maybe, but the thing is that why they foster their local manufacturing? Like, what if they were supplying markets in Toledo, in Valencia, in Murcia, in Cordoba? Why they foster their own local manufacturing when most people were? If there's any insight about that thing, any document that would mean something.
For the moment, I don't have any information about that. As I said, it's an initial approach, so we need to work in that way. I think it's one of the main lines. But well, for the moment.
Something I'm keeping to think about myself, like yesterday also, why would certain industry rise? Why would they initiate certain lines of production, right? Yeah, an overall question for us to ponder, I guess.
Thank you, Jorge, for this paper. Just maybe a dumb question, but what I think it's interesting in your research is that this change. So there was this quite important industry in Granada that was appreciated before the Christian conquest. That was, well, they suffered a little bit of envy. Also, I remember some discourses in the Portuguese parliament saying, well, Granada is so rich because they have silk, why don't we do the same as they do? And my question is, well, the Christian conquest will reorganize this industry, will impose a new model, if I understood well, more concentrated, more standardized. What was the result? Was it good? Did it last? Because I hear a lot about Granada silks before the Christian conquest. Maybe I'm ignorant, but after the Christian conquest, they lose their originality that they had before. Well, what was the final result of this? That's my question.
Yeah. Well, it's a difficult question to ask, but it's after the conquest, the silk. The Christian silk experiment a few decades of splendor, but then start to get worse, because the Italian cities took the raw material, the silk before the spinning, so when this Italian city established his own silk, his own industries about the silk, not only the weaving, you know, the spinning in their cities, they cultivate silk. They don't need the silk of the Granada silk. They don't need to import silk from Spain. So this is one of the reasons. Other have to deal with the quality of the silk, because this intend to intensify in production and get high production. The quality of the silk get worse by the time. Also, I have some information about Murcian silk and Valencian silk that have a worse quality than the Granada silk. So they introduced in Granada the Murcian silk and the Valencian silk, and false the seal of the silk. So I think this is other of the reason, the quality, the level of quality get worse by the time, and so will end with the ruin of Granada, the Granada seal in the final of the 16th century. Yeah.
Hello, Jorge. Thank you very much for your presentation. A question about the people. After the conquest, what happened with the know-how of the production, with about the silk production? Because in Portugal, after the Jew forced conversion, it's common to say that the Jews goes to the Netherlands and they apply their knowledge in the local markets. What happened with these producers, this know-how in Granada after the conquest?
Thank you. Some of them remains in the rural areas, like here. This is a rural area, the Alpujarra, in Granada. They remain a lot of time until the complete expulsion of the Muslim. But some of them is apart, and in this place, the silk production, the traditional silk production with moral trees, no mulberry trees, and maintain a long time. So this is a interesting fact. But others leave the peninsula and go to the North Africa. So we don't know so much about that. I only know that they leave the peninsula, and we also have information of a registry in Malaga. So the people who leave the peninsula had to put their possessions, their names, their age, and other. And I have some information about spinner, most of all, spinner that left the peninsula. Other were slaves. It depends of the city, because the conquest of Malaga is a very brutal fight, very brutal conquest. So the inhabitants of the city were slaves, most of the population. So they were sold in a slave market like Sevilla, and Cádiz, and others. So it's a variety of situations. But I think this is important. The important here is the rural areas, because the production took place there in the rural areas where the moral trees are, and so on. And in these areas, some of them remains for a long time. So converse, but well, we don't know if we really converse or not.
One question I have myself, just popping up, because like actually on this slide it says like they share trees, and it's very rural, as you just pointed out, like the production. Did they share trees for like risk sharing or for reasons of capital accumulation?
In the Nasrid period of Castilian.
Or whenever.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have. Yeah, the Muslim law is very specific about that. We have some treaties of law,
Yeah.
so it's a very work. We have some work in that way. So yes, they have certain risks and.
But why? Because of the risk that trees might die or whatever,
Yeah.
or because they didn't have the money as a single person.
The risk. Yeah,
The risk, really. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
this
the main reason. I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
That. Yeah, but that is one of the aspects I think is misunderstood in some point, because not because the work in the Muslim law, but because the context of the steel production. Because I see a misunderstanding in this type of work. I think we need to produce more work in steel production, textile production, in order to understand better the law. Because in some aspects the law is very confusing, and we don't really know how to say.
Normative sources are a problem.
Yeah.
And we had with sumptuary laws, you know, I mean, you can
But
stipulate whatever you want. If
in
nobody...
the Christian times, it's very common. It's very common that, but it's not problematic.
Yeah, but I mean, if there are the sources to actually kind of, normally the problems, we only have the normative sources, right?
Yeah.
But if we can, of course, use other materials to get a better view of the actual practices, right? That would be nice. Yes, one more question.
Just to mention something, I mean the only factory that works in Soufli area belongs to somebody named Sakiris, was owned by two brothers who were Sephardic. So it is a very interesting issue to see about the continuity to Sephardic community in Thessaloniki, and to these areas, to see if there is any continuity of know-how from the Sephardic of South Spain to the New Jerusalem, which is Salonico, and
I think that's interesting. Yeah, see the continuity, and I think it's one of the problems. We don't have any work on that in Spain. I don't know if any other country, but